Today we're going to review basic RIC operations, emergency air management techniques, including an overview of the RIC pack and 3 different types of SCBAs currently in use in the OCFA. And we're going to introduce 2 new pieces of equipment which will be standard issued to our truck companies, the large area search bag and the RIC tarp. If you're not assigned to a truck company, make arrangements with one in your area and become familiar with the RIC tarp and the large area search bag. The large area search bag has many different techniques that will work with it, but it's up to you and your crew to train with it and determine which ones will work right for you. Most of you are already familiar with Phoenix Fire Department firefighter Brett Tarver and the incident that led to his death on March 14, 2001. Shortly after this incident, Phoenix Fire Department ran approximately 200 rapid intervention drills with over 1,100 Phoenix Fire Department firefighters. Afterwards, an Arizona State University statistician analyzed the data and came up with the following. First, rapid intervention is not rapid. The average time for rescue crews to get to a ready state was 2.5 minutes. From Mayday to RIC entry was just over 3 minutes. Time inside the building for each RIC team averaged just over 12 minutes. The total time for rescue was 21 minutes. On average, it took 12 firefighters to rescue one. 1 in 5 RIC members got into some type of trouble themselves, and a 4,500 PSI SCBA bottle lasted approximately 18.5 minutes. Most incidents that require a RIC team deployment occur in the first 24 minutes of an incident. When given the RIC assignment, here are some considerations and objectives. RIC should be an active role on the fireground. The group supervisor should acquire a second pack set, one for RIC operations and one for firefighting operations. A designated RIC area needs to be established as well as a tool cache. Consider the use of 1-hour bottles. A 360 and softening of the structure should be done. Any ladder thrown should be thrown fly out to facilitate possible rescues or bailouts. Plan your egress as well as your ingress should your team be activated. The size of the incident will play a role in determining the amount of pre-staged personnel. Prior to and after your team is activated, ask yourself, what information do I have or need? If you are activated, and it is possible, ask the victim to activate their pass prior to your entry. Now we're going to hear from one of the leading RIC instructors in the nation and our own Battalion Chief, Pokey Sanchez, about an incident he was on and RIC was deployed.
During some of the RIC classes that we've done here under live fire conditions, being an instructor, you get to watch a lot. And I think being able to watch and not participating, you kind of get that overall broad view of what's going on for the incident, and you get to see a lot what's going on. I think some of the biggest thing is just communication. Like, inter-crew communication is huge, but also providing that key information to the crews outside or that IC or operations who's commanding that RIC activation. Having that RIC supervisor, having that one company officer step up and take charge to command the guys that are actively involved in searching or trying to free that downed firefighter. Getting that positive air source to that downed firefighter, either with your own pack if you don't have a RIC pack available, but getting that number one, that positive air source is going to be the key for that firefighter that's down. That's our limiting factor, is that air supply inside that building. Not only for that down firefighter, but for us as that RIC company. So having that air management also as we're providing through. And simple things, just basically shielding yourself from that radiant heat or that down firefighter. We might have to be taking doors off hinges to provide some kind of natural barriers that we can put in front of it to protect us from that radiant heat. That's going to buy us some time to allow us to either keep searching or keep freeing that down firefighter. Being able to have that RIC training in a live fire environment duplicates what it's going to be like in the real world as best we can. Obviously, it's still a training environment, but to have that live fire component really changes things. You know, we can't cut corners of live fire. You can't take your gloves off if you can't reach in your pockets. You can't stand up because you're gonna burn or you're melt your helmets. You can't see, it's realistic. We're not gonna be able to see. When we have that RIC activation, it's gonna be the worst situation for us as firefighters to be able to have to now save our own. And just because there's a RIC activation or a firefighter calls Mayday, the fire doesn't stop. The fire's gonna keep compounding and getting worse. So now we have an incident within an incident that we have to overcome, that we might already be behind the power curve even before we had that RIC activation. So now we have to press on, get our crews assigned and established and in place to be able to locate the down members.
I-19 emergency traffic. We've had a partial roof collapse. We're going to back everybody out and get a head count here.
I responded to a structure fire along with Battalion 7 units and ARCO Engine 31, who was the first driving engine company. found an attic well involved with fire in a large two-story single-family residence. A few minutes after their initial attack, they did have a ceiling collapse. With our RIC team being so proactive, we had very minor injuries and came away from the incident unscathed.
That team was successful because they were prepared. One way we're going to be better prepared is with two new pieces of equipment. The first is the large area search bag.
Each large area search bag will come complete with two 20-foot webbings, one 10-foot webbing, and 200 feet of search line. Upon receipt of the bag, each company may find it advantageous for their usage to add a few more items to the bag. Most firefighters carry wedges in their turnouts. However, with the large area search bag use, it is imperative that we use these in conjunction with the bag. This will aid in ingress and egress and ease of deployment of the bag. We also have added two chem lights to our large area search bag. These can be easily large-footed onto the line and aid in visibility of the search line. Let me talk a little more about the search line itself. Located every 25 feet is a knot and ring combination. This not only provides directional reference, but distance into the building. As firefighters enter the building, we come upon a ring first. As we exit the building, we will come upon a knot first, hence the term ring out. Since training with the large area search bag, we have found some crews have difficulty feeling the knots with gloves on. Train with your crew and decide whether you would like to spread the knots apart. Crews enter on the right side of the line and exit on the right side of the line, same as on the road. The concept of the large area search bag is to ensure the RIC is connected to the main line at all times to maintain accountability. At any point, a member leaves the main line to expand search capabilities, he or she must be attached. This may be accomplished with the use of one 20-foot webbing, two 20-foot webbings connected, or our SCBA 75-foot tagline. When leaving the main line, greater than verbal or visual communication distance, it is important radio communications are available. Prior to entry, the search line must be anchored outside the structure at least 3 feet off the ground. This will serve to keep the line suspended as we progress away from our entrance. The large area search bag should be secured in the left hand, maintaining tension throughout deployment. In order to maintain tension, it may be necessary to periodically tie off the line. Two types of searches can be conducted using the large area search bag: point-to-point or specific area search. A point-to-point search is the preferred method. This is used when the last known location of the downed firefighter is known or we have a pass device sounding. The RIC then moves directly towards the downed firefighter with the line. Specific area search may be necessary if the location of the downed firefighter is unknown. At this point, thorough systematic search is required. Refer to your IFSTA manual for review of basic search techniques. The crew positions we will be showing today for large area search bag deployment is for a 4-person company and are only recommendations. Position number 1 moves in an upright position with the head up, providing a clear route for the crew with the tick. He also uses a tool for sounding or sweeping in front of the crew. Position number 1 will carry the extra tick battery, and upon exit is the anchor for crew and maintains accountability of all personnel. Position 2 will be rope deployment. His job is to maintain line deployment and ensure tension is maintained throughout the search. Position number 3 will carry one 20-foot webbing wrapped around the hand for ease in payout, and will also bring in the RIC pack. Position number 4 will also carry a 20-foot webbing wrapped around the hand and extra tools deemed necessary by the RIC leader. Typically, firefighters have a plan for ingress without consideration for egress. There are 2 circumstances for egress. 1, firefighter or firefighters are low on air, crew has maintained the rule of thirds, and needs to exit the building prior to locating the victim. In this scenario, the crew will tie off the bag. This will accomplish 2 things. It provides a taut line for exiting and incoming crews to follow, and identifies the starting point for the incoming crew to continue the search. The second circumstance for egress is your crew has located and is removing the victim. In this case, the bag does not need to be tied off. The anchor position will provide tension on the line. When locating and rescuing the victim, the lead will clear the way of obstacles. 2 crew members will secure air supply and remove the victim. The anchor maintains crew accountability and keeps the search line taut.
The second piece of gear we're going to introduce is the RIC tarp. It's been implemented not only to make the RIC process more efficient, but facilitates direction for our department and multi-agency operations. The RIC tarp serves 3 purposes. First, it's the center of operations for all RIC activities. It functions as a meeting point. Second, it's a tool cache. The itemized list on the RIC tarp is not an end-all be-all list, but it's a starting point for the crews. And third, it's a planning area for the group supervisor and the RIC teams.
Now for the most critical aspect of rescuing a downed firefighter, emergency air supply.
In most cases, when emergency traffic or mayday is broadcast for missing, downed, or injured firefighters, locating the firefighter and ensuring adequate air supply are the most important functions RIC can provide. A large majority of fireground fatalities are directly related to CO poisoning and asphyxiation. Investigations have shown that in the events of entrapment and disorientation, firefighters are dying from lack of air before sustaining fatal burn injuries. Emergency air supply is a critical function that must be considered by the rapid intervention crew. Here are some considerations. What steps need to be performed to secure the air supply of a downed firefighter using the air pack you brought in? Are all firefighters on the fireground using the same type of SCBA? And if not, what steps need to be performed to secure the air supply? We'll get into buddy breathing in a minute. Let's talk about the RIC pack first. It's important to note that this is, in cases of downed firefighters and trapped firefighters, that this is your best option because it increases your working time. It does provide you more air, and it provides you an independent air supply. Whereas if you're going on a firefighter rescue and you're sharing a bottle, that's going to decrease your working time. So we'll review the pouches. At the base here, we have a RIC tarp. We open the pouch, and we have over 6 feet of low pressure line, which has a dual manifold. You have an extra regulator and an extra face piece. In this pouch, we have multiple sets of cutters to include a knife. On the back side here, we have over 6 feet of high pressure line. At the end of this, we have the RIC UAC that attaches to the stem at the base of some models. And at the base of the bottle, the exposed part of the bottle, we have our first stage. And when you turn on the bottle, notice there's no sounds and there's no pass device. That's important. We also have an extra face piece here. Now we're going to review in-service deployment of the RIC pack in the event of a downed firefighter. First, sit the firefighter in an upright position. Shut off his pass device. We're going to assess the firefighter and condition of the face piece. Face piece is an integral part. It's polycarbonate base, and it's the weakest component of the system. It's subject to thermal degradation and impact damage. Deaths of the firefighter in the line of duty show thermal damage to the face piece and a likely contributor to the fatality. Examine the face piece for cracks, bubbling, deformity, and discoloration. Keep in mind that CO poisoning may make a firefighter confused and/or combative. Now we're going to demonstrate 5 different ways to put a firefighter on air. If the face piece is intact and in good working order, the quickest and easiest method, if they have the dual manifold next to their harness, is to remove the face piece with a low pressure line. DC, got to make sure my bottle is on. And attach the female to the male end. And our firefighter has air. Another method you can use if the face piece is intact and in good working order is to do a regulator changeover. So what I do is I turn my bottle on, notice no cycle or no sounds. I take out the face piece, I DC the face piece from the regulator, and I coordinate with my partner. Take 2 breaths. And make sure he's breathing, he's on air. Another method you could use if you recognize that you have the AP50 or the AP75 and you have this connection point here is just to DC this connection point off the regulator and attach from here. I turn on the bottle I hold the female end for my partner, and he attaches it and make sure he's on air. Notice my partner asked him to take 2 breaths, and he coordinates the attachment. In a situation where the facepiece has been damaged from heat, a fall, or collapse, we need to do a facepiece changeover. It requires a coordinated effort between me and my partner. I'll remove the facepiece from the RIC pack, making sure the netting is in front of the facepiece. My RIC bottle is on. Notice no cycle or no sounds. And I'm going to use the chin cup method. As soon as my partner removes the facepiece, I make sure I get a positive seal. My partner pulls the netting back across his head, tightens down the facepiece. Replaces gear, and we're good to go. And lastly, a consideration for giving your partner air. If we recognize what kind of pack they have, and they do have the stem, that will allow me to connect the high pressure UAC line to it. This is a universal air connection. In 2006, MSA, Drager, and Scott were all mandated to have the RIC UAC as part of the RIC complement. This is a transfill system. It takes 7 to 8 seconds for the bottles to self-equalize. It does not fill the bottle. It just gives him the air that's from here to the bottle that he has, and the bottles self-equalize. So if I have 3,000 pounds in my RIC bottle and he has 1,000 pounds, he's only gonna have 2,000 pounds of air. That could be a disadvantage. So just make that part of your consideration when you're thinking about air supply for your down firefighter. We connect the bottles. We attach for 7 to 8 seconds. The bottles self-equalize. We can actually hear it. And we recommend that you DC the connection for mobility purpose when removing your down firefighter. Buddy breathing. When addressing air supply, air remaining after performing the search, coupled with reduced air supply of the firefighter or firefighters that were found, may not provide enough air to exit the structure. Searching for and then removing a down firefighter takes a great deal of effort and increases your air consumption. Body breathing may be viable for inside pairs that run into reduced air situations, and it may also work in the event that a down firefighter is found by an inside crew. A major disadvantage is that the air supply is shared, and 2 people are now using whatever air supply is available. Before we can secure an air supply, it's important to talk about the different systems we have here in the OCFA. We've got 3 different systems, 2 versions of the AP50, a version that we recently adopted from Santa Ana, and our newest AP75. We'll talk about the components of each system, how they function, and how they integrate with one another for emergency air supply. The most common version of the SCBA and harness that we have in the OCFA is this AP50, where we have a quick connect to the regulator, a positive locking regulator to mount. From the pressure reducer, we have a female connect over the right shoulder, and we have parachute style fasteners. Next, we have a version of the AP50 that we recently adopted from Santa Ana. You can see here on the pressure reducer that inside this box, power is driven from this area. So your power supply comes from this area. You have 60 degrees. It's not free spinning, so it locks at 60 degrees. On your HUD display, you'll have several different lights. 2 green lights mean you have 75 to 100% of air. 1 green light means you have 51 to 75% of air. 1 amber light means you have 26 to 50% of your air. 1 red light means you have 0 to 26% of your air. And a blinking red light means you need to replace the battery for your HUD display. If you come down, you'll see off of the valve stem here, you've got your RIC UAC stem and your connection off of the valve assembly here. That's where you do your transfill. And inside the pouch on your lower left, if you're wearing the SCBA, you've got three feet of low pressure line with a dual manifold for emergency buddy breathing. What also separates this from the older style version of the AP50 is that we have an alligator clip here. Newest version of the Scott we have in service is the AP75. You'll notice right off the bat, we've got a carrying handle. Can also be used for dragging a down firefighter. We have an angled gauge for easier readout. You've got your power supply to the lower right if you're wearing it. To the lower left, you got your RIC UAC stem. Adjacent to that, we have 3 feet of low pressure line with a dual manifold for emergency buddy breathing. We have a HUD display on our regulator, similar to other AP50s adopted from Santa Ana. 60 degrees of rotation, but we also have a quick disconnect as well.
As with any new tool or skill, in order to become proficient with it, you must take it out and train with it. Take your SCBAs out and become intimately familiar with the mechanics of it, as well as any other type that you may encounter in your area.
One scenario that has to be practiced and reinforced is the sharing of a regulator. In cases where you don't have the RIC pack and a firefighter has system failure, be it the bottle or a regulator, sharing a regulator may be your only option to provide air. This requires a coordinated effort. A challenge when removing a downed firefighter is maintaining a positive seal on his or her facepiece. Length of your buddy breathing line limits any distance you can have from the victim. Be cognizant of your body position when providing air and removing the victim. Note that the firefighter rescuing the victim is aware of the EBSS hose length.
A lot of guys in the fire service have that mindset of RIC. Being on their RIC company is essentially you're in the penalty box or you're on a timeout for the incident. Yeah, we all want to drop everything we're doing and run and go help. But if you're on the roof, keep ventilating. If you're attacking the fire, keep attacking the fire. Yes, it's not as glamorous as going up to the roof, cutting a hole, or going inside, making the knock on the fire with the attack line. But I want to have someone that's out there knowing that if something goes wrong on that fire ground, I got the best of the best outside in there to come and get me if I have to.
The importance of the RIC team operation on any working fire incident, it's imperative for all of our crews to remember it's for our own. The RIC team needs to be aware of the ongoing situation on the incident, understanding where fire suppression activities are taking place, search and rescue, salvage operations, and where the tactical priorities are and what the incident commander's objectives are. As the RIC team group supervisor, it's your responsibility to assure that your crews are well trained, have a good understanding of the building construction, the fire behavior, all the equipment that's going to assist your operation if it's necessary. You need to practice and train for these operations. Don't wait for the incident to occur. Train at your own firehouse, train here at the tower, and make sure that you're well prepared and be confident in what you're doing.